Greetings, programs. Well, here we are, still in Pasco, Tri-Cities, Washington. Didn't do a flight yesterday, as you may know, for the 2 or 3 of you that watch this. I live in Southern California, and we've been beset with fires again. 2 giant fires between the 2 of them, I think, are about 22,000 acres. They started yesterday. I was at work. I had a busy day yesterday at work. Got home kind of later, and we're kind of waiting on the edge of our seats about evacuation orders and whether that might happen. So anyway, needless to say, I didn't go flying. But we're going to do a full flight today. We're going to go from Pasco, Tri-Cities, Washington, back to Coeur d'Alene. Now, I know that I'm the only person on Earth who remembers this, but when we landed at Coeur d'Alene the last time, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks ago in the ongoing adventures of 3 Whiskey Bravo, we had one of the closest calls we've had that was entirely my fault, and that was a near controlled flight into terrain, a CFIT, because it was a nighttime approach in good weather, but nighttime. And I was trying to cut corners, and it was too close for comfort. I had to initiate an emergency climb because we came uncomfortably close to some mountains near Coeur d'Alene. Anyway, if you take a look here at our flight plan out of Tri-City airports, by the way, I have reinstituted live traffic, so there are other planes here in the vicinity, but that's me. But I figured live traffic was a lot more manageable when you're dealing with smaller airports than our calamity or near calamity in San Diego a couple of days ago. Anyway, if you notice our flight plan today, here it is from basically Pasco, Washington, up to Coeur d'Alene, very close. It's about 125 miles. Should be pretty fast flight, about a half an hour, I'm reckoning. And a nice straight-in approach to runway 6. A little bit goofy here on the VFR display here. You see this waypoint is offset from the airport, so we may have to accommodate that. But if you know anything about the weather here in the western part of the United States in the last day, little did I know when I was doing my flight up from Half Moon Bay to Pasco, where we are now, the 135 knot headwinds that I had to deal with, which are a different video, were a sign of things to come, because the jet stream basically dipped due south from Western Canada, south over Washington, south over Oregon, south over Northern California, and then slammed into us very early yesterday morning, about 3 a.m. Actually woke me up. 60 knot winds, 60 mile an hour winds at my house. That'll shake your whole house, believe me. Anyway, enough chatter. Let's get going here. What do you say? Let's head over to Coeur d'Alene. Goofy AI issues notwithstanding, I think that we're going to have very good weather, and it's still daylight. No mountain issues, God willing, on this flight. We'll check our parking brake, make sure it's good to go. It is. Go up to our crash bar, we'll move the crash bar up, set our generator, set our battery. While it's loading up, we'll do a few other things we need to also take care of. AP trim, auto, on. Fuel selector, auto. Get our lights started anyway. Okay.
Takeoff runway 3 right climb and maintain 13,000 feet. Departure frequency
13,000.
28.75 squawk 7432.
7432 on the
Pause
transponder.
Test. Okay.
I always set it a little higher than what they clear me up to, just because of certain in-sim goofiness. Set our vertical speed, 1,800 feet. Change our nav source to FMS. And set our wind settings. Option 2. There, we got the wind now. Just not much of a wind now. Very different from the night before last when we landed down here, actually up here in Pasco, Washington. Quite a windy landing. But very cold out, though, I would note. Just 3 degrees outside, upper 40s. Don't think we need pushback today. That's good. That makes life simpler. So what we do need to do, though, is fire up the airplane. So let's go ahead and do that. Ignition's at auto. Use our starter. Keep an eye on our NG percent. Gets to 13-ish. We'll switch to low idle. Now it's at 13.
November tree 4 tree whiskey Bravo requesting pushback.
Oh, AI's handling the ATC. I see.
November tree 4 tree whiskey Bravo pushback request accepted.
I don't want pushback, and you're not ever going to have pushback with a spinning blade. For heaven's sakes. A spinning prop and a pushback. I mean, can you imagine this guy's job? Anyway, NG percentage ready to go. Good. Pressurize the airplane, switch bleed to auto. Everything looks really good right now. All started up. We'll sync our altimeter 3022. Taxi clearance. Got our ribbons that'll come up here in a moment. At least in theory. Go ahead and zoom in here a little bit more so we can see better on where we are in relation to the airport. There we go. Here's our takeoff runway over here. Let's zoom out a tiny bit more. That's our takeoff. Winds are from the northeast. Very mild winds, but winds nonetheless. We still got some annunciators. Stall, no heat. Pitot, no heat. Just a reminder to turn on our pitot heat. You see that's now off. The only remaining annunciator is the parking brake, which we'll turn off here in a second. Just looking for those. Oh, I see ribbons over here. But regardless, even if I didn't have ribbons, I know that I'm taking off. Take a look. I know that I'm taking off on this runway. Actually, wait a minute. What runway do they have me taking off on? What'd they assign me to? I thought they assigned me to 3 left. 3 right? Ugh. Boy, oh boy. It's not a big deal, but they just assigned me a very short runway to take off from. Alright, well, we'll make it work. Okay, so let's go ahead and disengage our parking brake. Whoa! Whoa! Easy there, Cochise. I don't know what happened just there. We just...
Aural warning.
The throttle gunned it all of a sudden. That was a little apprehensive. Okay. Disengage the parking brake. Get our feet on the pedals. Turn on our initial separator before we start rolling. That keeps gunk, junk, birds, rocks, and so forth from being sucked into this right there, which is bad, needless to say. Go ahead and activate our, oh boy, this camera. Ongoing issue with the camera defaulting back to auto over and over and over again. Drives me nuts. Anyway, we'll activate our strobe light, activate our taxi light prior to taxi. Just check our final checklist here. Parking brake, pressure bar generator, blah, blah, blah. Pressurize already set. Oh, we'll go ahead and set our aux boost pump to auto. Good. Inertial separators, autopilot setup, altimeter setup, AB trim, yaw damper. We'll activate yaw damper after we take off. Lights for taxi acknowledge. Lights for takeoff, not yet. Flaps. There we go. And we'll sync our heading bug once we get onto the runway. And PFD settings already been addressed on our, with regard to the wind issue. Okay, well, the only thing interesting about this, not that there isn't something interesting about every takeoff, is this whole notion of taking off from 3 right. That is a short runway. A very short runway. I've taken off from shorter runways, so I'm not nervous about it, but I would have preferred to have been cleared to take off from runway 3 left. No big deal though, we'll use our feet to steer. Don't have a long way to go to the runway threshold. Once we get in the air, short flight. Just follow these yellow well, I'm following the blue taxi ribbons as well, because those don't seem to pose a problem in terms of the bug that I've described in the past on uncontrolled airports. You see how over here it shows me how far we are from our destination, 0.22 nautical miles? Well, on uncontrolled airports, what I've noticed as bug is that even after you take off, this won't go away. And that's, needless to say, very annoying, because you know, you could be 200 miles from where you took off and there's this annoying thing floating around, this right here, floating around your screen telling you that you're 200 miles from where you last took off from. And I don't need that. Obviously, I don't need that information. That's annoying and stupid. But it does not seem to present itself on controlled airports with towers. So I left it on. You see, here we are. We'll stop right here at this line, which you can also see depicted right here on our simulated visualized image. Stop right there, and now it should. There we go. Cold out, so we'll turn our heater on. Okay, pulse lights activated, landing lights activated. Take a look out the left there, make sure nobody's inbound. By the way, you see our altimeter 3022. High pressure like that is always consistent with good weather, or if not good weather, clear weather. And we've got clear weather today, so, and we've still got daylight. So basically, this could be a VFR flight. We're expecting to fly at 14,000 feet. Excuse me. What did I do? I can't remember what I requested. I think 14,000 feet on this flight. Anyway, we could do this whole flight VFR, I'll be honest. But let's go. Get onto the runway. So I had said that this was a short runway. It is, but it's not that short. 4,300 feet is more than enough runway for this airplane to take off from. Not going to be an issue. We're going to be at takeoff speed 90 knots in a blink. Got a very slight crosswind. How do I know that? Well, here on the PFD you see 2 and then the direction from which it's coming relative our current position. So just do one last sort of once over. We'll sync our heading bug. I do that so that if I take off and everything goes to shit, I can activate the autopilot and click the HTG button, and it'll just keep flying runway heading. Everything else is armed, ready to go, and we're ready to go. So let's do it. Let's get over to Coeur d'Alene. Starting our takeoff roll. Watch that airspeed. Airspeed's alive. 65, 80, 90 knots, and rotate. Positive rate, gear up. Watch that torque percentage. 118 knots, 119 knots, good climb rate. About 2,000 feet per minute. Flaps retracted. We'll address deactivating our inertial separator here in a moment. But activate autopilot. That chime you just heard was just a reference to the fact that our yaw damper was not engaged. It is now. We're going to deactivate our inertial separator now that we're 3037 on the say 3037? Wow. Okay, the altimeter changed rather dramatically. 3037. Okay. Just that. Do the same thing on our standby altimeter, barometer, 3037. Airspeed's really flying right now, so we can throttle back just a little bit and activate the FLC. the FLC will maintain our current airspeed. If that means increasing our rate of climb, it'll increase our rate of climb to maintain our current airspeed. If it means decreasing our rate of climb, it'll decrease our rate of climb. What we'll do now is activate nav, because right now you see, why are we not on the magenta line? Right? Well, because it's still flying according to, or it was still flying according to the heading. We'll activate nav and it'll turn left now. It's turning left to intercept this magenta line now. Sounds like there's some more traffic in the area. You just heard that guy call out. Climbing at 1,400 feet per minute, 183 knots. As I mentioned, the autopilot is holding the airspeed as it's been instructed to do.
Maintain present heading and altitude. Contact tower on 135.3.
We will zoom out here on our MFD a little. Looking good. I'm going to go ahead and tell the FLC that we do not need to climb at 183, 184 knots. I'm going to tell it that we can climb at 175 knots. Now think about it logically. What does that do? Well, it effectively allows you to climb at a steeper rate. If you tell the aircraft we can climb at a slower speed, then it will climb more steeply. Just picture running up a hill. You can run up a steeper hill if you can run slower. If you have to run up a very steep hill and go fast, and your engine can only go so fast, you're going to run up that hill very slowly. Beautiful late afternoon. I'm in the same time zone here as Washington State. It's 15:58 hours, just shy of 4 o'clock p.m. here in SoCal. UTC 22:58. There we are. Looking really good. That's PSC. That's where we just left. And once we get up to our cruising altitude, our airspeed will increase rather dramatically. To illustrate that point, right now I'm showing us 37 minutes from our destination, but in reality it will be much less than that, because once we get up to our cruising altitude, we will go faster. And in order to get to our cruising altitude faster, I'm going to tell the autopilot we don't need to climb. We don't need to maintain such a high speed. In other words, I'd rather get to our cruising altitude faster. Basically a function of the difference between the rate of climb and the angle of climb. I'd rather get to our cruising altitude faster so that once we're at cruising altitude, I can gun it and really fly. The intensity of the headwind that we dealt with on our flight from Half Moon Bay up to Tri-Cities was something I've never seen. I've been playing Flight Simulator since '85. Obviously, Winds Aloft is a more recent introduction into the sim. But, I mean, 135 knot headwind is dramatic. And I was just shocked by how impactful it was. I mean, this airplane was doing 202 knots ground speed. 202 knots. This isn't an airplane that I've taken with a good tailwind up to 425, 430 knots. So that's revealing, I hope. You can see what I mean by that.
Going to 132.6 tower.
And this is a single engine turboprop doing 425 knots across the ground. That's rivaling the jets, the big boys. Now it's not quite there, but it's damn close. So to see that reduced to 202 knots, and basically half, is a real commentary on the power of wind on all airplanes. I mean, those of you who've flown to Europe and from Europe, you know, the flight to Europe is, let's just use, I don't know, Germany as an example from LA to Munich. It's like 10 hours and 10 minutes. The flight back, 11 hours and 20 minutes. And an extra, for the same exact route, an extra hour added to the travel time because you're in an airplane, and despite being in an airplane with unbelievable horsepower and thrust capacity, the wind doesn't care. You're going into a 135 knot headwind in a plane like this, you're going to feel it. So we're closing in on 13,000 feet. I've preset 14,000 just because I know that right when this gets to 12,900, they'll chime in. Watch. See? I happen to maybe subliminally remember that 14,000 feet was the cruising altitude I selected. The point of all that is that we're just about to level out at 14,000 feet. 13,500 feet right now. As we level off, watch what happens on our ASI. It's going to move up, and it's going to move up fast. Keep in mind, I throttled back on our torque percentage during our climb out, just to take it easy on the engine. Well, watch this. This airplane's got a lot of power, and by God, I'm going to use it. Don't want it to start enunciating. When it starts flashing red and white, that just means you're putting too much pressure on the engine. So right now it's at 96%. That's great. And look at this ASI. I mean, it's just zooming up. The winds aloft aren't really an issue. They're 33 knots. A very slight crosswind. I mean, it's actually a very significant crosswind, but it's a very slight headwind. There's other ways to visualize this 3-3. If you take a look, you see wind option 1, meaning that we have a 12-knot crosswind, or 12-knot wind coming from the left, and a 31-knot wind coming from in front of us. Option 2 is the one I prefer, where it averages them. And then option 3 actually shows the direction that the wind is coming from, 305 degrees. If you look on our compass heading, there's 30, there's 31, so like this. So if that's our plane, the winds are like this. So a big difference between that and 135 knots headed straight at you. So, looking good, lots of farmland out there. But to illustrate my point, I don't know how long ago it was that I commented on how far we were from our destination, but at our current speed, we're now 22 minutes from our destination. So, quite a difference. I don't know why our airspeed's dropping. Let's check something. It's very interesting. I don't know. That's interesting. If anybody has any ideas, I'm open. Seemed like it dropped rather precipitously. I actually started checking some of my other gauges here to see if there might have been a problem, but it seems to have stabilized. Doing 257 knots across the ground, true airspeed 258. The closer these numbers are, the less affected the airplane is by the wind. Level at 14,000 now. Good. I'm showing 255 knots across the ground. Still showing 95% on the torque percentage. ITT looks good, 571, way in the green. Prop RPM 2000, that's fine. Cabin pressure's good, 4,700 feet. Plenty of fuel. At 36 on the left, 38 on the right. We're We're just 20 minutes from our destination, our current airspeed. I'll expect the episode length on this one to be about an hour by the time we're all finished. But the flight time, probably about 38 minutes. Just an estimate, but that's what I'm guessing. I was checking, we're using the scroll lock button just to make sure we didn't miss any broadcasts or the AI didn't get screwed up. If you watched my previous flight into, which I know you didn't, but to the extent you did, my previous flight into Coeur d'Alene, the approach, as you can see, was to go like this. This is a KSK, I think it's a military base. Anyway, like this. I was coming from, I think I was coming from maybe Grand Junction, Colorado. Anyway, I was coming from the southeast, and I went like this, and I was supposed to fly in this direction. But then I got cute and said, well, let me cut that short. And I said, instead of going like this, I'll go like this. Well, as you can see, there is a little terrain right here. So right when I was about over IDB, even though it was darkness, I had seen on my simulated visualization screen right here, and also my RA radio altimeter, it showed that I was at like 580 feet above ground right here. And it was decreasing, 580, 550, 530. And I said, oh Jesus, I'm headed towards a mountain. It was pitch black, so I couldn't see it. But I looked at this terrain map, I looked at my MFD, climbed aggressively, and turned left, got back onto this, and then finished the approach. Interestingly, the approach today is to the same runway that we landed at last time. This is a little weird, this whole thing, how it just stops right here. Now, for all I know, this KCOE, that's the airport, that magenta circle right there. So why it's having me go over here, I don't know. We'll find out though, soon enough. The good news is that unlike our last flight,
Number 3 Whiskey Bravo contact Seattle Center on 119.225.
19225, Whiskey Bravo. Look at
119.225, Docker Drake Whiskey Bravo.
Seattle Center, this is Dare 3 Whiskey Bravo with you, 14,000.
Seattle Center, Docker November 34 Drake Whiskey Bravo, 14,000 feet.
The good news is, and the difference is, that 3027 now on the altimeter. Adjust that. Every time they tell you the altimeter, you check to make sure it's right. Anyway, the difference is that today, in weather like this, I'm not concerned. Truly, we could have done this entire flight VFR. No issues, no problem. But below the VFR altitude limits, we're at 14,000 feet. It's a beautiful day up here in the Northwest. I gotta tell you, it's nicer than where I am right now, where it's, once again, smoky and orange skies and shitty, and you can't even go outside without your eyes watering, and it's, I mean, I'd be happier just taking a pack of Lucky Strikes and doing that over the course of an hour than days and days of this shit. But I grew up here and I've gotten used to the fall being a time of high winds, dry desert air swooping down from the northeast, from the Great Basin. The one thing I will say about this Santa Ana wind event that makes it barely
barely more tolerable, which is not to say that it makes it tolerable, is that it's cold. Well, cold. It's not hot. It's not hot, so that helps a little. Showing us just 17 minutes now from our destination. Cruising right along at 253 knots. Again, you'll just think about that. The day before yesterday, we were at 29,000 feet, if memory serves, 30,000 feet. And we were doing 201 knots across the ground, 202 knots across the ground. And now, at 14,000 feet, much thicker air, we're doing 253 knots. Now that, again, I said it's not exactly a headwind, but it is slowing us. It is slowing us because it's technically coming at us. If it was coming from behind us, it would be helping us. But it's just not slowing us as much as it would be if it was heading straight at us, if that makes sense. There were actually two options available for this approach into Coeur d'Alene. There was an ILS, a published ILS approach, but you, like me, have probably noticed the PFD freeze bug that I have identified. Only seems to happen on ILS approaches. So I elected to do the RNAV approach to the same exact runway, which requires us, according to the published approach chart, to be at 4,500 feet at the waypoint Sipit. Take a look out there just to help you see what I mean. If I can find it, it's Sipit. Oh, it's Sipit. There it is, Sipit. 4,500 feet right here. Airport now you might say, wait a minute, that's so close to the runway. How can you be that high? Well, the airport elevation, don't forget, is 2,320 feet. The approach course for runway 6, ironically, is 051. I say ironic because you generally expect it to be 06 something, but not necessarily. Missed approach, if we need to do one, is to climb to 7,000 and then fly direct to Simmel, which is basically a runway heading. So the Sipit waypoint I mentioned right there is the FAF, the final approach fix. So that's always important to know about, because that's your last waypoint you're going to have on final. Hazards in the area, according to the approach plate, show off to the right 2 5,200 foot peaks. This is what I almost had a very close, intimate connection with on my last approach into Coeur d'Alene. The distance between Sipit here and the airport, according to the approach plate, is 6.7 nautical miles. Always useful to be able to study these approach plates and know this stuff. Finally, at POBIY, you want to be at 5,600.
Maintain present heading and altitude. Expect RNAV runway 6 approach by Golf Echo Golf transition.
Okay, here we go.
Golf Echo Golf.
Golf Echo Golf, GEG, that's this.
Maintain present heading and altitude. Expect RNAV runway 6 approach via Golf Echo Golf transition. Cleared to Golf Echo Golf. Docker Tree Whiskey.
So we're cleared to Golf Echo Golf. We're already headed to Golf Echo Golf. Our minimums are 2740. Go ahead and enter that. There's no need to enter any ILS frequencies even though there is one, I'm not going to because I don't want the goddamn PFD to freeze again. We'll enter our minimums, barometric minimums at, I already forgot, what did I say? Should have written it down. Weights for KCOE for the RNAV 06 minimums are 2740, excuse me, I apologize. Enter that 2740. Okay, so we have our barometric minimums now entered. Minimums will not be an issue today at all, because we're going to see this airport from a long ways off, I suspect. Showing just 12 minutes at our current airspeed. Airport is 49 nautical miles from our current location. There is, I suspect, a VOR DME at Coeur d'Alene. So the question is, do we know what that frequency is? Beautiful. Wow, what a pretty day out. The internet is really your friend in this game because you can just look anything up. I'm just grabbing my phone right now and entering KCOE, Kilo Charlie Oscar Echo VOR DME, to see if I can find out that frequency. I show 108.8. Let's try it. Let's just see what happens, okay? Nothing bad will happen to the plane by trying this. Nav 1. 1088. Activate. Go over here. PFD settings. Bearing 1. No, nothing. We are getting info for our next waypoint, 8 nautical miles to Golf Echo Golf, which I would expect. That's the same thing I'm seeing here. I know this will be hard for you to believe, but sometimes the information on the internet isn't correct. So, sometimes I have to try other options. But I do show 108.8 seems to be the VOR DME for it. It's not critical, I'm just naturally curious as to what the interesting. I am showing 8.8. Did I enter it? Well, let's just always check your work. You know, it's certainly not inconceivable that I messed it up or entered it incorrectly. What? 108.8. Okay, well, I don't know. Not a big deal. I'm wondering if we're going to get instructions to descend anytime soon. We'll see if this problem presents itself again. The same one that happened on our approach into Tri-Cities. We're at 14,000 feet right now. And there it is. I'm going to throttle back now.
Descend and maintain 5,600 feet.
Set our altitude selector to 5,600 feet, like they told us. Begin our descent. We'll initiate a descent of 1,500 feet per minute. 1,600 feet per minute, I'll take. Keeping in mind that our next, let's do some math. Fast math, fast math. Our next destination waypoint, POBIY, right there. We actually know what altitude we're supposed to be at POBIY. We're supposed to be at 5,600 feet. So we're at 13,300 feet right now. POBIY is 4.5 minutes away. You see right here, 427, 426. So let's just say 4 minutes. Well, 1,600 times 4 is 6,400. 6,400 feet off of 13,000 feet. Well, what do you know? Puts us very comfortably within our destination altitude, but not quite comfortably enough. So we'll accelerate our descent rate slightly. Do the math again. Now we're at minus negative 2,000 feet. That is, we're descending at 2,000 feet per minute. We're, again, let's just say 4 minutes from the next waypoint, at which we need to be at 5,600 feet. 12,000 minus 8,000 puts us at 4,000 feet, which is lower than we need to be. So by slowing down, we will keep us from being too low at our destination waypoint. That is Spokane, Washington. Never been, probably never will. Nothing against it, I just don't know if I would have occasion to go there. Downtown Spokane right there, by all accounts. Showing just 7 minutes, 30 seconds. Kind of a decent sized city, actually. Little bridge. There. So basically, you see here, you can see it on our MFD, but it's easier to see here. We're straight in. Now we'll see if this weird thing ends up giving us any problems. But you know what? I'm actually showing this as showing us landing nicely at our runway heading. Earlier it looked like it a little weird. Okay, so we got some other planes in the area, but nobody else, I don't think. I'm not hearing anything on the radio that suggests that anybody else is landing at our runway. Shallow out our descent rate, looking really good. Showing us 3 minutes now from POBIY. Actually, give it a little more gas. Okay, we're looking good. Oh, there's a little runway down there. Wonder what that is. KSFF. I'll have to look that up later. Anyway, airspeed looks good. 32.1. Dire 3 Bravo, good day.
132.1 for Donner Tree Whiskey.
Yeah, you see these mountains? This is what I came uncomfortably close to the last time I was in Coeur d'Alene. There's our airport.
300 feet for 5,600 feet.
You can see the REILs, the runway ending.
Delta November 34 Whiskey Bravo Spokane approach. Continue to Bobby as planned. Altimeter 30.36.
The runway ending identifier lights. 3036? Yeah, 3036, okay. Set it at 3036. Stand by as well. Okay, remember we need to be at 5,600 feet at POBI, P-O-B-I-Y. And after that, 4,500 feet at Sipit, right here, this one. Right there. This is going to be a very friendly approach. A very friendly approach. I mean, it's a it's a pretty long final. I mean, it's just, and it's completely straight. Just dead straight into Coeur d'Alene. I mean, that's pretty nice. Definitely takes a lot of the anxiousness out of the analysis. Airspeed's 140 knots. Yeah, those are the mountains that I was descending like this, and I saw this, and I didn't see it, but my instrument saw it or alerted me to them, and I said, "Whoa!" And then I turned and came this way.
Bravo, you are 17 miles west of Kilo Charlie Oscar Echo.
Thank you.
Doppler Tree Whiskey Bravo.
Okay, we're level with.
Charlie Oscar Echo traffic.
Okay, that's our handoff to the CTAF,
Whiskey Bravo,
or
16
Unicom
miles west
frequency.
inbound RNAV runway 6.
So now we're going to have to handle our approach
Kilo
ourselves.
Charlie Oscar Echo traffic Doppler November Tree 4 X-ray Whiskey Bravo is on final runway 6 to land.
We actually are on final this time. So I'm going to handle our descent ourselves now because there is no tower in Coeur d'Alene. So we're on our own. So I'm going to descend to 4,500 feet because I know that to be our next altitude at our next waypoint at Sipit. I also know that that waypoint is 3 minutes away. We're at 5,300 feet and we only need to lose another 800 feet. So we don't need to descend at 1,000 feet per minute. We need to lose only about 750 feet to be at that appropriate altitude. So we're actually, this is fine. I mean, we're really plain and straight. I would like to activate the RNAV approach, but I found the RNAV approach to be real tricky. We do have GP, a glide path. Well, let's keep it on. See what happens. In weather like this, man, use it as an opportunity to learn. Okay. Airspeed's perfect right now, 130 knots. Winds are kind of coming crosswind sort of from the east at 2 knots. Not much of a wind, to be honest. Closing in here rapidly at 1 minute 55 seconds. Zoom in here a little. 1 minute 55 seconds from our next waypoint, which is Sipit. Remember, it's Sipit according to the FAA approach plates. We need to be at 4,500 feet. And look at our altitude, 4,650 feet, and just 91 seconds away from Sipit.
Kilo Charlie Oscar Echo traffic, Docker November Tree 4 Tree Whiskey Bravo 11 miles west inbound RNAV runway 6.
11 miles out. Look at what's happening to the magenta diamond. Watch, see that this GP turns green. What you don't want to do is stop descending. So I'm going to set our altitude selector at our minimums of 2,700. And let's see if this grabs. It should grab. We should get a glide path here. I've been wrong before, but it's looking good. Shallow out our descent rate here a little so we can pull up underneath it. Basically, if the glide path were a slide at a playground, we'd be underneath it right now. We want to pull up into that playground slide and then get on it and continue heading down towards the runway. But we're looking good. It'll pop up in the seat here a little. There's the runway. We'll go through our Gifley checklist now. Gear, inertial separator, flaps, do 1 knot since we're at the first dot. Fuel is more than fine, 28 left, 27 right. And landing lights already on. Okay. Just watch how as this magenta diamond dips down, the glide path gets grabbed. I really would expect that to happen. I've been wrong before, but that should happen. Whoops. What happened on our landing gear? What that was all about. I'm going to have to check that. Oh, look what just happened. We grabbed the glide path. That's very strange.
Kilo Charlie Oscar Echo traffic, Docker November Tree 4 Tree Whiskey Bravo 7 miles west inbound RNAV runway 6.
I just had the most terrifying concern that I flew that entire flight with my gear down. God, I hope not. Anyway, we're on the glide path now. You see the magenta diamond staying steady. GP is illuminated green. All we need to do right now is do 1 last notch of flaps. I'm showing us 4.4 nautical miles from the airport. So we'll go and do our final notch of flaps. Descend to or slow down to our approach speed of 85 knots. That airspeed really plummets when you do full flaps on this bird. But we're looking good right now, 92 knots. Still remember my takeoff out of here last time when I went to Duluth. It was crazy. Cars down there. Beautiful country. 88 knots now. Just perfect. I'm going to have to go watch this video after I land and see if I can't imagine that I flew the entire flight with my gear down. Please, God, don't say I did anything that foolish. But it's weird because when I deployed the gear, I then looked down and it said they were up. So I'm going to have to check that. There's the poppies. See white, white, red, red? That means we are perfect. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Showing just 2 miles from touchdown. Airspeed looks good.
Kilo Charlie Oscar Echo traffic Doppler November Tree 4 Tree Whiskey Bravo 3 miles west inbound RNAV runway 6.
Wonder how many times I'm going to keep announcing that. Okay, 500 AGL, below minimums now. Autopilot disengaged. I have the airplane. Airspeed's perfect. Keep those 2 whites and 2 reds if we're able. Wind out of the southeast, 1 knot. Nothing to ruin our day. I'll keep an eye on this right here. Just keep that magenta diamond right in the middle. And also keep an... Oh, there's the shadow of our plane. Look how cool that is. Also keep an eye on those Vossies, and I mean poppies in this case. 2 whites and 2 reds. If you keep 2 whites and 2 reds, I don't care how weird it looks, you're convinced you're too high, you're convinced you're too low, you're perfect. Oh my God, the shadow of the airplane, I'm like freaking out. Okay, we'll idle. A little bit too high. Okay, flare. Don't porpoise, I'm floating, damn it. There we go. Okay, a little bounce, but nothing catastrophic. Oh man, I think we touched down about 64 knots. That's about as slow as this plane can go without falling. All right, so parking, I recall from my last visit here, was off to the right. I don't know why ATC hasn't talked to us. That's weird. Oh, because there is no ATC. What am I thinking? Okay, so we'll announce that we're clear of the runway. We'll zoom in here on our... Hello, why didn't you announce that we're clear of the runway? Oh my God, did I announce clear of runway? Jesus.
Kilo Charlie Oscar Echo traffic Doppler November Tree 4 Tree Whiskey Bravo is clear of the runway.
Parking for GA, I think... I'm looking at a map of the airport on my ForeFlight app. Appears to be right there off to the right. We're on taxiway Delta right now. And it looks like Delta 5, Delta 4, Delta 3, all here. 5, 4, 3. So we'll just taxi straight ahead and park. There's some airplanes right over here. So actually, might just kind of pull them right here. Bring in our flaps, turn off our landing lights while we're at it. Yeah, I'm just gonna... Well, actually, is that a fuel... That's a fuel stop. But it does appear to be the GA parking. So we'll taxi right up here. Turn right at that yellow ribbon right there. And park next to our buddies.
Okay. So appears that we may have some grass to go over. Well, it's a little airport, so the sim didn't entirely play out all of this stuff. We'll stay out of the water anyway. Ah, okay. Everybody's probably looking and saying, "Look at that guy!" Okay, we'll park over next to this Cessna. He actually got his lights on, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. A couple other TBMs with similar paint schemes here. Okay, that's it. We made our hour estimate. Although I'm freaking out now that I depressurize. That whole gear issue's got me all upset. I gotta go check that. Hey, at least you know I'm honest. I'll be totally humiliated if I watch this video and see that I flew an entire flight with my gear down. What a doofus. Good lord. Okay, everything's shut down, and I think we're good. So we'll take a look outside real quick. There we are. I don't know if that bus is waiting for us, but you're gonna have to wait a little longer there, pal. Okay. What's a bus doing out here anyway, for heaven's sakes? Okay, that's it for now. We'll ventures a day or three. We'll continue. Okay, bye-bye.